share two mics. Yeah. Makes it better. Dr. Hakainen. Oh, great. Melissa, I think Dr. Harkainen's waiver is the orange sheet that's over there on the jacket. So we have one more. Mister, okay.
I don't have a PhD.
Dr. Mister. Here, I will sit here if you would like to sit over here. Thank you.
All right. Should we get one more chair? Yeah, let's get one more chair for you.
Okay, great. Are we on?
This mic's on.
It is. They're hot mics.
Yeah.
Yes. Always assume the microphone's on. I'd like to welcome everyone. Yes, I would like to welcome everyone to the debrief interview for the session this morning, Carbon Economy, Considerations for the United States and the Pacific Rim. I'm joined today on the stage by Dr. Collins, Dr. Masui, Mr. Harkainen, and Dr. Dolshak, who organized. Collins, can you tell me what your goals were in organizing the session today?
Well, thank you for inviting us to this debrief. And in terms of organizing this session, I have to acknowledge really the motivator behind this, and the person who got this going was Mr. Naoki Saito, director of RIKEM, and who is in the audience. But he invited me to be co-organizer and to help frame the topic and flesh it out, and I was honored to do that. When the idea behind this particular title and theme really comes from the theme of the conference itself, envisioning tomorrow's Earth, and what really drove our framing of the session was the 3E concept, that is energy, environment, and economy, and the need for all of these three drivers to work in sync to move us toward a more sustainable life. And then I thought afterward that in addition to economy, environment, and energy, we also need to think about the politics behind it. 3 E's plus P just didn't quite sound right, so we kept it at the 3 E's. But we have a distinguished political economist to remind us of the importance of setting the political framework and getting us going on that. In addition, we could add another E if we wanted to really stretch this out, and that is ethics. That came out very strongly in our presentations as well. And of course, science and innovation from our contributor from RIKEM, also very important. And so that really is the genesis behind our decision to propose a panel on this particular theme. And I think my fellow panelists can probably elaborate on that.
Thank you so much. Now, to get into the actual topics of what were discussed this morning, as you alluded to, politics, the P, you don't have any efforts without people being involved. And Dr. Nevis, can you talk a bit about your work and what you presented this morning?
Thank you. So what I presented today was essentially 3 prongs of how we get to decarbonization path in our economy, in our world. One prong is definitely governmental policy. One prong is innovation, and that is both technological innovation as well as institutional innovation. And the third prong is individuals and the actions they take. And we live in Washington State, where we have experimented twice with individuals being willing to tax themselves to change how we use energy, right? We have had on the ballot twice in 2016 and 2018 a carbon tax, and unfortunately it lost both times. So for me, there's always been a challenge. If in Washington state, which is among the most educated, most liberal, and most environmentally concerned states in the United States, if we cannot pass the tax, what is going wrong? And what I have on the slide behind me is the experiment that we ran in the United States, so it's a national representative sample, and we asked, it was an experiment, so where we introduced respondents to different types of carbon tax, because we thought that in Washington, we just didn't pick the right tax. Maybe if we just picked a different tax, it would pass. So the experiment we ran, and we had 1,600 respondents answer our survey. The results that I have behind me is, do different tax generate different support for taxation? As you can see on the slide behind me, mitigation is one approach. So we have a tax where we make sure that we use the revenue from the tax to mitigate emission reductions. And that's the only one where we had the statistically significant higher support for taxes. And the very frequently talked about tax, which is the revenue neutral tax that supposedly everyone supports, not in Washington state, not in our experiment, which was using the national sample. So if we're committing to doing something, carbon tax is a difficult proposal, and even different types that we think are going to have higher support do not have it. So we'll have to think carefully if tax is the way to go.
It seems like the words that we use, the way we frame things, is very important in the adoption or the support that does get picked up by people. Now, Dr. Harkainen, Mr. Harkainen, for your presentation, you talked about the circular economy, and can you give us a breakdown of what exactly that means and what you were talking about this morning?
Sure, thanks. So I come from the Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra. It's a future organization under the Parliament of Finland. Our task is really to think about how does Finland as a society succeed in the future. And we see the circular economy as being really key in Finland's prosperity. How do we actually bring well-being to Finnish citizens in the future in a global economy that, well, the atmosphere is warming and we have other challenges. Now, the circular economy is this concept, this idea that instead of just excavating resources, producing products that last for a very short time, are designed for single use, and then we throw them away or we burn them, we should think about creating an economy where these materials are reutilized over and over again. We design products that last longer. We buy services instead of products, so we don't need to own everything. So this is the sort of the idea. We can also think about having biological cycles, so products and materials made from biomass, agricultural biomass, forests, wood, or then a technical cycle, so mineral resources. You can apply sort of circular principles to all of these. Now, how in practice businesses do these is through circular business models. So product life extension, designing products that last longer, selling products as a service. So instead of selling light bulbs, you sell light as a service to a room. Sharing platforms, so using new digital technologies to increase the utilization rate of machines, cars, others, using renewable resources, materials and energy, and then of course recycling and resource efficiency. So recycling is a part of the circular economy, but the circular economy is a much broader topic, a systemic change we would need in our economy.
Thank you. Dr. Masui, you spoke about the research that's ongoing to develop new products, to develop sustainable crops. Can you give a summary of the work that you discussed today?
Thank you. So today I talk about carbon economy in a scientific point of view. So I specifically explain about like current research going on in our institutes. We're working on, we are making use of very environmental friendly, was a very natural resource as a materials. So we are making use of hydrogen, water, and air, and also the earth element. So using earth element, we are making self-healing polymers. So it is quite new technology and it can be used for many purposes, like to prevent the puncture. And another one is polymer is leading edge polymers. It is biodegradable polymers. So we are now still depending on petroleum depending polymers. But I think in the future, more like a carbon recycling, uh, environmental friendly polymer will be necessary. So for this point of view, I talk about the biodegradable plastics made by the soil bacteria. And this plastic, after you use it, it can also degrade completely in the soils. So this is the second point. And I also mentioned about several improvements of crops, because the crops are now affecting by the climate change. So to adapt, whether to overcome these effects, we have to improve crops. So this is another point what I talked about. And lastly, I talk about natural rubber, because natural rubber is very important resource, which cannot still cannot be used, cannot be replaced by the synthetic one. So we are now addressing how we can improve this rubber, and we are also addressing the problem what is occurs in the world, like fungal diseases.
Yeah, I found that very interesting, the fact that natural rubber cannot be replaced by the synthetic rubbers, and that it also is under threat of infection by the fungal diseases. And so how do you protect something so that we don't end up in a situation like the banana, where maybe we lose the banana someday because of these infectious threats? For all of you, thinking about changing our economy, changing the way that we work with the resources that are available on the planet, and also the way that we interact with the people who are using those resources, how optimistic are you that we can make a change? And the year that is brought up so often is by 2050. You know, how optimistic are you that change can happen, and that what you're looking at is the proper route to be able to address it?
I think that's a very relevant and very timely question. I'm actually quite optimistic. I mean, if we think about human beings, we're quite resilient, we're quite innovative. If we just decide to do something, we'll manage to do that. The challenge, of course, is how do we actually get this sense of yes, let's just do it, let's just change our economy into a more sustainable form. But that's where this sort of circular economy, carbon neutral circular economy, I think, is a great vision for the future, something new, because it's something positive about the future. It's not only a means to reduce the emissions and our burden on the environment, but also a great business opportunity. So we can generate jobs, generate growth in a sustainable manner. So as long as people see these, are aware of these solutions, we'll pick them up, surely.
I always ask the question, is there political will for a policy change? Because that's what I study. And what I've seen in United States historically is that we have had bipartisan environmental policy. It was the Republican president who established the Environmental Protection Agency, not a Democratic president. So we know how to work together if we just talk to one another. And what we've seen specifically in climate change is that we have been in the two camps. There was a Democratic Party camp and there was the Republican Party camp. And we were really not talking to one another. As a matter of fact, we were frequently blaming the other as being the source of the problem. So if we are flexible, if we are willing to talk to one another about what solutions the other side would need to be able to commit to doing something together, then we can do it. We've done it in the past. We've solved some very difficult environmental problems in the United States where we couldn't breathe the air which we had. So I have no doubt that we can do it, but we will have to start building coalitions.
Talk to each other.
And scientists usually very optimistic. So about resources, what we are using is very not so very rare one. It is very abundant, like water, air, and also the earth elements. So for these points, we are very optimistic to make use of those materials to produce new things. And we're also very kind of optimistic about climate. Maybe climate has been brought current situation by the like human activities, but at the same time, maybe we can also return to the like original conditions by human activities because has been done by ours. So also the technology can help to how we can address these problems.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear the optimism from all of you because I think that is a big question these days, and there are many who are quite concerned about the climate and the environmental issues that we're facing. Dr. Collins, you haven't told us about your optimism, whether or not.
Well, I am by nature not an optimist, but on this question, I'm guardedly optimistic. And as an engineer, one of the reasons for optimism is just what I'm seeing in the engineering world. There's a lot of new technology being developed, carbon capture, new ways even new ways of using fossil fuels that are more environmentally sustainable. There's the LAM cycle that's being developed in collaboration with, I believe it's Mitsubishi in Japan, which captures its carbon and just recirculates it as the working fluid in a power cycle. We have innovative companies doing direct air carbon capture. A lot of companies that I've been studying in Japan are putting a lot of resources into clean coal and carbon capture. So even within the realm of fossil fuels, there's a lot of innovative work that's going on, and that's not to even get into solar and wind, which are making dramatic strides here in the U.S. But when I think of whether I'm optimistic or not, I spent 8 years at the University of Virginia. It's a university that was built by Thomas Jefferson, and it really is imbued with his principles, which are the Enlightenment principles, grounded in optimism that as knowledge progresses, that we will find ways of improving the human condition. And one can't be there for as long as I was without being optimistic about where knowledge can help us to lead. But a second person I would point to, and this is, I think, key, one of my political heroes, or philosopher heroes, is Hannah Arendt, the great 20th century German political philosopher who really emphasized the importance of people talking in the public square, people engaging, people running not away from politics, but to politics. And I think that is really going to be key to whether we solve this problem, is whether we can come together, people with diverse points of view, with diverse backgrounds, into a public square and hash through these problems. Because there will be costs and there will be benefits, and we have to figure out how those are going to be distributed. I think a key is going to be to amplify the benefits, and that's something engineers can do. It's something all of us can do as educators, is to amplify those benefits, to show that they're out there, that they're very real, but we have to talk. And I'm guardedly optimistic that that's going to happen.
Thank you. Now, as we finish out our time here on the stage, I would love to give each of you the opportunity to tell the general AAAS community who may be watching this stream and watch this video later, to give them the one piece of information that you want them to take home with them from your work or from your presentation today.
I think your question was excellent. Are we optimistic or are we pessimistic? And I am firmly optimistic. And where I see the solution is different actors coming together, bringing different interests, bringing different views and different preferences together, and all of us compromising and being flexible and finding that negotiating space where we can find a solution that we can, not all of us, we don't all have to agree, just sufficient number of us, agree to pass policies that are required, and then obviously we're all educating our children how to behave in an environmentally sustainable way.
I suppose my message would be that environmental sustainability and economic sustainability are not either or questions. They go hand in hand. So we can sort of achieve both of these, and that's where the circular economy comes in. It's a great opportunity. It's a great investment opportunity for the future, and that's where the future of growth, future of jobs will come from. And hopefully we can build a global circular economy altogether.
Today I talk about from scientific point of view. I think Pacific Rim is very important because Pacific Rim contain have like a resource consumers and resource producers. So we need to more discussion about consumers and resource producers to sustainable development.
I would say that the way forward is going to be, it's going to require collaboration across disciplines, a lot of thinking in between the spaces of disciplines, and that's hard to do, given the way that we structure the academy and the way that faculty get promoted in the academy. But I think the solutions are going to come from really innovative work that reaches out across disciplines. So interdisciplinary would be my one word to sum up where we need to go looking forward.
Thank you very much, all of you, for your time and for your energy in the work that you do. Hopefully it is through the work of people like you that we will achieve our goals by 2050 or whatever. Maybe we can all be like Finland. Yes? With time. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And there will be more up on this stage in a moment. I'm Dr. Kiki Sanford. Thank you.